Hello, and welcome to another episode of My Gear to Cur. And I'd like to thank Turo for sponsoring today's news segment. Turo is a peer-to-peer car app service that I've used a lot over the years in my travels, including for several videos. Before I bought my Tesla Model S, I tried out one for myself using Turo on a trip to California. And I've used Turo to try everything from expensive exotics like the BMW i8 to affordable oddball cars like the Saturn Sky Redline. And I even borrowed a PT Cruiser with a stick once. That was a really cheap one, but still lots of fun in its own way. Turo is really easy to use, and you can get $25 off your first rental by going to their website, linked below, and using the code Hoovies. Putting aside the interesting and wide selection you get through Turo, over 850 makes and models, it's also really convenient since you skip the normal rental car line and hassle and instead go right out to your car. They're available at more than 5,500 cities and 300 airports across the US, Canada, UK, and Germany. It's way more affordable than traditional rental car companies, offers delivery services for even more convenience, and is available using a web browser or through your phone via app. So sign up for Turo in the link in the description below, and be sure to use my discount code Hoovies25 for $25 off your first rental. Now let's get to the news, and I don't think many people have been talking about the new Corvette yet. Am I right? I'm the first? I think I'm the first. On my 33rd birthday, July 18th, 2019, the long-awaited mid-engine Corvette was unveiled to the world, and it's probably the first time any of those jean short-clad, New Balance-wearing Corvette enthusiasts have ever used their running shoes to run to Chevy dealerships as fast as they could to place their order. But it's not just the boomers that are excited about this thing, it's pretty much everybody. And if you went outside the moment the C8 was unveiled and listened very, very closely, you could hear phones ringing at Toyota dealerships all over the country with people desperate to cancel their super order. As many have predicted, the Corvette will be a game changer with its exotic styling, unlimited personalization, and crazy performance. This car will probably disrupt sales for way more expensive makes just because of how good this Corvette seems to be. And its base price below $60,000? Really, it just destroys everything. Personally, though, I'm probably not going to be the one buying one since they'll probably be too reliable and offer way more of an enjoyable ownership experience than I'm used to. My automotive masochistic tendencies has me liking cars that can ruin my life with endless, constant repairs. But I am still very glad that the new C8 is here. Why, you ask? Because I'm hoping that it tanks the values of used exotic cars that I've wanted for years, but their prices haven't dropped much since new. I'm hoping the C8 will finally pop their bubbles and get them into hoopty territory. There's so many cars I could think of, and if you have your own suggestions, please put them in the comments section. That's as long as you hit that subscribe button on the way down there, but I'm going to limit my brilliant analysis to my top 5 hopefuls. The first car that I think really needs a price drop is the Ferrari 458. This was the first car that finally brought Ferrari out of the flappy paddle automated manual clutch dark ages with a great dual clutch transmission. And unlike the 360 and the 430, the 458 has drop-dead gorgeous styling. Since the later turbocharged 488 and most future turbo Ferraris have lost much of that glorious exhaust note a normally aspirated V8 Ferrari could only make, many think the 458 will be a major collectible in the future. New, the base price of the 458 was $225,000, and almost 10 years later, the average asking price for an early example is still over $150,000. Unlike the 360 and the 430, prices of the 458s never got low enough to be attainable to average enthusiasts. Now it's reported that the new Corvette was benchmarked against the Ferrari 458, and it's faster, and it's safe to say it will probably be way cheaper to maintain and way more reliable. And since the Corvette, even a well-optioned one, will be half the price of a 458, I'm hoping the C8 will finally knock that 458 boulder loose so it can start rolling downhill the prices. This is the only chance that we will ever get to see a sub-6-figure 458 that wasn't wrecked or caught fire. Since I don't have the talent of Tavares or Goon Squad, there's no hope for me rebuilding one cheaply as well. Now, the next car on my list is another YouTube staple, and that's the Lamborghini Huracan. Once again, this was the first Lamborghini offered with a livable paddle shift transmission and is known for its reliability and ability to handle incredible tuning mods, but they're still ridiculously expensive. The base price of the first year 2015 Huracan was something like $230,000, and if you bought one new and put less than 10,000 miles on it over the past few years, it would still be worth at least $200,000, if not close to its original MSRP. Even higher mileage cars still have an asking price of $175,000 or more on AutoTrader, and it's not like this is a particularly rare car that's that special. When you consider that you can buy a new one for so close to the price of a used one, it makes 0 sense, but that's the Huracan market, and there's just no way that that can last, especially if a $60,000 mid-engine Corvette can keep up with it. And you know people will be tuning these Corvettes to similar levels of insanity as the Huracan, except a supercharger or twin-turbo kit will be way cheaper. An early used Huracan needs to drop like $50,000 in value or more to make sense, and maybe the C8 will finally make that happen. But if you think Lamborghini pricing is weird and incredibly stupid, allow me to introduce you to the Porsche GT3 market. And this is the car that I'm probably most likely to buy if they ever got a little cheaper. Now, the GT3 variant of the 911 is a great car, a track-focused rocket ship that was actually a pretty good value new. But Porsche dealers just couldn't help themselves, and they'll mark these cars up to tens of thousands of dollars over their MSRP, and that's partially Porsche's fault for not building as many of these cars as people wanted. Putting aside the wild pricing swings of the RS models, or like the 911R, the GT3 Touring, I'm into the more normal 991 chassis GT3 with the PDK transmission, which so far, even though it's not that special, hasn't depreciated much from new, but I'm starting to see some cracks. Porsche is currently testing the latest generation GT3, and I imagine the new model will probably push down these older models some in price. But if the C8 turns out to be a much cheaper and just as durable track weapon as the GT3, I'm hoping to see a more dramatic drop. Another car that I would probably buy if it ever got to be reasonable is the AMG GT, which isn't mid or mid-ish engine, and it's more of a grand tour, but still a very capable performer and gorgeous. Unlike just about every other Mercedes AMG model that drops in value insanely fast though, these have been holding their value pretty well, and that's confused me a little bit. The previous Halo AMG car, the SLS, has even appreciated as a collector car, even though it's not that old, and unlike the SLS, the AMG GT doesn't have the fancy gull-wing doors. I mean, Halo cars from other luxury makes, like the BMW i8 or Acura NSX, have depreciated a lot, but even cars more praised like the Audi R8 have depreciated at a greater percentage than the AMG GT. So what gives? Maybe with time, the C8's competition, an early AMG GT will be a $50,000 or $60,000 car someday, which is where it needs to be. Wouldn't that be just wonderful? I mean, wonderful. Now, the last car on this list is the brand that I think will be taking the hardest hit from the Z8, and that's McLaren. Unlike a Ferrari or Lamborghini, McLaren doesn't have the brand prestige established with customers, and most owners are enthusiasts who appreciate impressive engineering and performance of their cars. The 720S is already very expensive. It's over $400,000 with options new, and if you can find one that's a few years old, it'd be around $250,000 or more. But I suspect the Corvette, if it's as good as it seems, will tank these cars even more, especially when Chevy eventually does the Z06 and ZR1 versions, which you know probably won't be much more expensive than the current front-engine C7 offerings. I wouldn't want to own any McLaren right now if Chevy makes a product that beats it and is way more practical and reliable. But if a U720S were to sink to low six figures, which I think is very possible, I would be quite tempted. Now, the big if with these C8s is if they will eventually be good. Hopefully, Chevy didn't have too many brain farts when they moved the engine from the front to behind the driver, and they don't have things like overheating issues that current generation C7 Z06 owners have complained about, and they're actually able to produce enough cars to keep up with demand. In 2016, over 40,000 new Corvettes were sold, so we know Corvette's Bowling Green, Kentucky plant can produce a lot of cars, a lot, and hopefully they do so. That way we don't have some ultra-competitive dealer markup scenario that makes the Corvette unattainable to the masses. So far, Corvette has always been the everyman sports car, so fingers crossed they can keep this up. And I, for one, am thankful they haven't offered one yet with a manual transmission, because if they did, I may have just screwed myself with this gated manual Lamborghini that I just bought. Yeah, then I'd be married to that thing, which I could be married to worse. It's so beautiful. And my bin pack lift, look at the bin pack lift, it's so cool. It's beautiful. Anyway, thank you for watching another episode of Oh My God, the Car. And if you think my observations weren't totally stupid, be sure to hit that like button and let me know what car you hope will get cheap thanks to the C8 in the comments section if it's not on my list. And don't forget to sign up for Turo and use that discount code Hoovies. Tally ho!